And they didn't teach us that. They didn't teach us any of that coming into school. Like they didn't teach us. It was moving too fast of a pace for us to really ingrain these these
For you
concepts.
personally, not for everyone. Not for everyone. Some people are high IQ.
I mean, well, no. For me personally, yes, I would say like I was able to like ingrain these, but I'm saying like I'm saying I'm talking in general. Like you look at these people and like they were able to just crank it up and just spit it back out. For me, I do believe I was able to
There is
like
no general.
internalize,
Everybody just learns at different rates.
but I feel like that would be amplified if they weren't scared of fucking dying every single day. Like look at the anxiety of our AP
I,
math class.
I
Like
mean,
they were no, but like you can remember by the time of the semester, like the midterms hit, everybody was like panicking. They're like, "Oh, maybe I should drop this class." They didn't give a shit about learning. They cared about
of course
optimizing their
not.
grades.
Of course not.
And they also remember like they all plagiarized off of each other. Like
Yeah.
literally every single one of them. They had like their little group chats. They're like, "Oh, did you see what this boy did and shit?"
Yeah, they
And
plagiarized off me.
yeah, shit, bro. Like they plagiarized off us, and we all like
Yeah, bro. Gotta
fucking
protect
swapped
yourself.
answers and shit.
It's being recorded.
And yo, but like it's just horrible, bro.
The thing with that
Like
is, again, like the incentive was gone. Like it's just too far gone, bro. Like, yo, we're 18 out here, man. Like I don't care. Like I don't care about the learning the math, man. I gotta get into uni, right? That's
but
why,
that's horrible.
like you're absolutely every time you're applying this to something that the school could do to become better, but like we're still completely fucked. Because
Yeah, because now that
it's
we've
just
come here,
so
but like, do you really think that
to
you
me, if you
have
don't
the
have,
understanding that you need to succeed
sorry,
here? Like now that you're here, like imagine if they dropped you in like fucking like a Harvard math course, bro. Like you wouldn't be able to survive just because you just don't understand it. Or like
what do you
even if
mean?
you had like because like we were incentivized not to understand it, we were incentivized to pump it out and then chuck it back out.
I, I'm not sure what you mean.
Like
Like
how would we be able to thrive in the next environment in the university? Because all we cared about was to just
no, no, no,
go.
no, no. If you're going into math degree, you would have paid attention. The point is, you're
That's
never going to take advanced math in your life again, so you just don't care, right? And you did this at the start of the year. You said to me, it was interesting how, Andrew, you said you're here because you want to learn more math, because everybody else said they just go for the highest course, right? Let's again, that's why it's all about the incentives. Why did everybody take that course? We know this information because point blank, everybody said it, right?
yeah, they said
Everybody said that they take this course
they
because
thought it
they
was
always go
soft.
for the highest, right?
They thought it was hard. They thought it was
So you're
hard.
saying, oh, they wouldn't thrive in a Harvard math course. They don't need to because they're not going to a Harvard math course. Not because they can get into Harvard, because they're not going
Yeah,
into
that's
math.
true.
So to me, at the end of the day, like this is not really applicable. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a adult, as in like has gone through life, understands what's up, understands all the aspects to it, like it's got to be one to one. Like if you're a child and you don't have an adult with you, you're not gonna reach your full potential.
What do you mean? Like if you don't have somebody walking you
Parents
through it?
are the only people who really care about their children individually. To everyone else, it's all just an incentive structure. The teacher is there to get paid. The institution is there to create employees. The firms are there to get employees. Like the universities are there to get money. Um, Everybody is always, they're on side quests, right? They're getting away from the
So
main
then
point.
is it even an issue of is it even an issue of creativity if these people don't even want to express that in the first place?
I think it's natural for humans to want to. Well, it's definitely natural because humans love art. That's why entertainment is a relevant industry. Um,
So why do
so
these people not want to? So like what? So then,
because
so I
they
mean,
because they get they because like capitalism, they care about the money. So again, like just like in our
or at
math
least
class, like
we're,
we want to get into uni.
yeah, like we're just incentivized to do that shit. But so then, like that comes to a restructuring issue. Like we have to truly just restructure our beliefs and what beliefs we set onto them in the system. Because I
People
do
need
remember,
goals
like,
though. People need goals. Like we're still not really
like
defining the goal.
people can't they can't set goals for themselves if they don't know what's out there.
The
Like
institution sets goals for the students, and it seems like sometimes we're saying what should the institution do differently, but it's like what is the institution's goal for the students, right? And the thing is,
but the goals
if you're changing the goal, you're not changing education, you're changing society.
their goal right now is to build factory workers, when the goal should be building
I don't
more
think that is
human.
their goal. I think that society wants to, I think that our nation would like to thrive much more than factory workers. Like, we would like to increase our GDP
If
as
that was
much
the
as
case,
possible.
if that was the case, then why don't they pump that shit out? Like, why aren't we pumping like people who?
There's too many side quests, right? Like, we don't want to affect
That's
their
not
mental
even the case.
health.
Like, but like also on the policy level, like we don't even incentivize businesses to thrive in Canada. Like we fucking marginally tax them like
Well,
crazy.
in the US, there's a venture industry.
Yeah, in the US, which is crazy. That's a country that's not Canada. And we're actually I think Canada is Canada's America's one of America's highest brain drains. Like they take high educated people from here who go to America and build big businesses there.
Yo, 100%, 100%.
And that's
That's not
like
an
that's like
education thing though. That's the government thing, I'd say.
but it ties in with the system, right? Like if their goal was not to produce factory workers, which I think short term it is, like I'm not saying like they want it, like they obviously don't want that, but how they structured it is what is the output. And as a result, our GDP is not growing and people are fucking unhappy and people are talking about mental health and whatever. But in reality, it's an issue of purely the policies, the status, the wealth disparity, and just the opportunity in Canada. Like in Canada, from our experience, it honestly is just not viable to live here as someone who's growing up. Like it's just not. The mean rent is like what, like 2,000 or like 12,000 Canadian. And then most people can't even afford to buy a house now until they're like what, 30. They say most millennials won't afford a house. Most millennials have moved back in with their parents.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. And as a student, I should go and focus on understanding calculus on a fundamental level rather than trying to get into university so I can get a high paying job.
yeah, like that's
Like, no.
But like even so, like even when you like we're punished like nonstop for even having high paying jobs. Like we come into like being a doctor and then you're boom, you're cut with the 50% taxes when you're not even high
I mean,
class, you're
that's
just
fine. That's not swaying anybody away from it though. Don't like that's not swaying anybody away from it.
no, but it's swaying people from Canada. And I think that's why
People are not
I think
leaving
that's
Canada because of the high income tax, dude.
yes they are.
No, they're not. That's such bullshit. Stop.
Bro,
It's not even that
okay,
high.
well just look at the but like look at how
It's
many
only high
businesses you
relative to the US.
here.
The US income tax is like almost the same.
I mean, like maybe in California, but like not in like Florida and Texas and all these
It's
other
not
states.
swaying people. That's not what's swaying people. People are not
Okay,
leaving
then what
Canada
is
because of high
why?
income taxes.
Okay, so then why
Maybe
does why?
healthcare. Businesses, it's different. Businesses is because the venture industry in the US, maybe corporate like level policy, like corporate taxes, sure.
That's what I'm
But
saying. Like, it's just
yeah,
better to open a business
100%.
in
100%.
America.
Well, it's the center of the world's economy, right? Whereas Canada is like, what is Canada? The thing is, I feel
But
like
Canada is right beside America. They have equal opportunity to be as prosperous, if not more prosperous, in the coming decades if they
look,
just play their
personally for
cards
me,
right.
I'm moving right where the biggest industry in my industry, I'm moving to where that industry already exists. Like, I'm not trying to be a pioneer, you know? Like, that's the incentive, right? It's the cold
Mm.
start problem. It's the cold start problem. Um, the incentives are just not high enough. Like, why would I go here? You know? But
Exactly. There is no reason, and that's what I'm saying. Like, why would I start a startup here when I can go to like Y Combinator or like I could go to fucking San Francisco and make a
100%,
tech startup?
there is no reason.
Like, there's no reason to stay. Like we don't get funded, we don't get help from the government, and we get punished, and then we don't get subsidies, and then we get
I wouldn't say
taxed
you get
because
punished though. I wouldn't say you get punished. It's just a cold start problem.
what do you mean the cold start problem? I mean like Shopify's here and they've made something, but that's it. Like that's like if you think of
Well
like
they decided that for them it makes sense to stay here for whatever reason. But
yeah,
gen,
I do want to understand why they
gen
would decide that.
generally people don't think of it that way. So
Really? What do you mean like they don't think of it like, oh, where can I open my business to have the
no, they
most
do. I'm saying they do. Like generally people don't think of it of the way that Toby did, right? Like
oh, I see.
so generally people will go to where the industry is already thriving, which is why it's a cold start problem. I don't think anybody's punishing anyone. Like actually being rich is great. having a big firm with lots of employees and creating economic surplus is great. Like, dude, we still live in like some of the most purest forms of capitalism in the world here.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Like maybe in like like middle to Western Europe, like sure, okay, like that's
No, but
tough,
like
but like
it is really just it is just a shame that we're like as like with all these resources we're not like capitalizing off of that. Like we still sell like water to bottled water companies that are like American or European based for like pennies when we could be charging like commodity prices to sell this water.
could we?
Like we could
Then
be
why don't we?
I don't fucking know. Like, why don't we stockpile like all that shit? And I think it's because like when I learned this in world history, I'm pretty sure it's because NAFTA is like holding us by the balls. The
Yeah,
same thing happened in like if you look at like
well, not
when I think it
NAFTA,
was
but
Obama. What do you mean?
I think NAFTA is gone.
Is it really
Yeah, bro, it's been gone for years. I think
a year?
years.
Oh, years. Well, whatever. I just know that when we learned about it, America essentially has Canada by the balls economically. Like
Yeah,
that's why they cut off the pipeline. Like
yeah.
it had nothing to
As of
do.
Donald Trump, as of Donald Trump, they created the
It
new
was even
agreement.
it was even Obama. Even Obama, like they cut off the pipeline from Alberta to the States, like the oil pipeline, which was like some people thought it was a W for like indigenous and environmental standards, but they never give a shit about that in the first place. Like they don't care. It was actually just because they didn't want to give us more money. Like it was literally just a like economic incentive. Like they wanted to have more
Yeah,
leverage over us, and they didn't want us to have like they didn't want us to have they didn't want us to clean our own oil. Like they wanted us to
yeah.
keep selling it to
One
them
thing
by
I
the
will
barrel.
say is like I think okay, it's just thing I never valued liberal education till now, which obviously I'm going to take history courses and such when I get back to university if I can. Like I think that this in Canada liberal education has been completely devalued, right? Because
Oh, but what do you mean? What do you mean?
learning about the arts and history and
Oh, I see, I
school
see.
being like it's very much focused on how will I be able
Giving
to
you general
pay
knowledge.
pay for myself, right? It's almost like everybody became an immigrant, you know. It's almost like everybody became an immigrant, as in like, I'm going to school to learn to basically pay my bills when I get older, like, and or it's just nothing, right? Like there's no in between. Like you either do or you don't. I don't know how it is in the U.S., but what I hear all the time is that liberal education has been basically like fucked up because it's very like a little bit too liberal now, as in like very like politically influenced.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then that could also be part of the issue. Um, but yeah, there's so much at play here, but that could be part of it is like the downfall of the liberal education could be part of it because there's a lot of argument, right? Like I mean, there's too much incentive to make this argument for it to be completely credible, right? But they obviously like people love to talk about like liberal education is like so good and shit, and like
Mm.
students should go to university to just like become better humans and shit. And yeah, like I think it is a way to kind of you know help you more sort of find your place in this world and also learn about the world and start to understand
Oh,
why
so
things work the way they do
let's go back to that though.
and
Like,
basically create critical thinkers essentially.
but like how let's go back to that creativity. Like, so if we're trying to like yeah, it's good for the short term to build people who are like really good at just paying the bills and whatnot. But like over time, like well, I don't know how you see the industry going, but for me, like I just envision that AI and AI tools is going to not only enhance human creativity, but then replace it
Yeah,
in the long term. And automation is going to remove all these small repetitive tasks that humans do
yeah,
to the point where we don't need these factory workers. So while the education system is going to be misaligned, the innovation is going to be happening at a rapid rate. So how do we maximize our own creativity, like on our own? Like again, like
which
what does it mean to be creative?
yo, I
To
think,
me,
I mean, there's simple steps in terms of before you try to ask this question again. Like we all know, like there's simple habits like meditate, cut out the noise, like paint, right? So
Yeah, do creative things.
right? Learn the tools. Like for example, if you're a musician, like you have to, as you told me, like if you're a musician, you have to be incredible at like the piano and theory and all that. Kind of helps you. Like if you're able to actually
Yeah.
put out your vision into something physical, so that other people can rate it.
But so then again, like, what does it mean to be creative? Like, why? Like, a computer can make a hit song according to virality statistics
Sure.
and music sheet
Well,
notes.
no, that's not being creative. But a human could do
I
that
know that's not
too.
being creative.
Humans have been doing that for decades, right? That's not
Exactly,
creativity.
and
Nobody's questioning
that
that.
is not creative.
Yeah. Again, nobody's questioning that it's not creativity. It's just nobody can like attack them. It's hard to attack them legally, because nobody knows what went through their mind. But I
Mm.
still think creativity is just it's about originality. I think creativity is about originality. Like the more
Like
original it is, the
making
more
something
likely it is
that's
to be
never
creative.
existed before.
Of
Is
course,
it?
your brain has to be. It's about algorithms rather than data.
Mm. So, but like, is something that Dolly creates, like, is that on the bar of being creative?
I don't know how Dolly works.
Well, essentially, it just has like an incredibly large data set of a bunch of images, and then it ties it to keywords, and then based on those keywords, it tries to combine those images together. Essentially, how it works. It takes it like it's obviously more complicated. It takes like noise, and then it tries to denoise it based on like the
Yeah,
keywords. Um,
I
but
mean that's all
essentially,
side quests.
but
I
it
think
has
that
it has access to a lot of images, and from our own experiences, we have access to our memory, which contains a lot of images. So if I were to paint a landscape, it would be if I were to base it off of like a reality, then what is creative about that if I just make like another sunset?
I don't think that's that creative. It's more of a
What if I
sketch.
made a purple sunset?
That's probably more creative. Yeah.
So it's so then like what if I didn't even make a sunset? What if I made like what if I made like three stars hovering around each other and the sunset was actually the Earth rising against the sun?
Yeah, no, there's no sort of input that made you kind of whip that up. That just completely came out of the abyss, John. So yeah, that's creative.
Yeah, cut out of the ether. So, but the thing is like I feel like regardless of what that is, like I had to know A, what a sun was, properties of what the Earth was. I had to know like if that thing's orbit, things I had to observe something in order to make something else. So I had access to some sort of information to able to be put out into the world. If you were blind, deaf, and mute, and you couldn't feel anything, would you be able to? Let's say you had like all the capabilities to think, but you had no information and you couldn't get any new information. Would you be able to make something creative? Like you could still think fully. Like you had, let's say you had access to like the entire language database, but you have no idea on what any of these things look like. Like you don't have any visual stimuli, you don't have any auditorial stimuli. You just know what these words mean on a very like pragmatic sense. Would you be able to create anything?
Yeah, I think you would.
Why? Is it because you know what those words mean? If you remove the
No, no,
words,
of
would you be able to
course
create
not.
anything?
Um,
And what I'm
because
getting at here what I'm trying to
okay,
get at here is that
yeah.
like is it truly impossible? Like why do these like I'm really trying to get to the bottom of like why do these skeptics believe that AI can't replace humanity? Like I think I'm actually very
Hmm,
certain that it can
interesting.
because I think regardless of whether or not creativity or consciousness is like a computation thing or not, I think the fact is that a lot of the things that humans can do, even if it may not be a computational thing, can be mimicked to a human degree based on just the sheer information that we have.
Yo,
Because if
it's
you look at
it's an interesting parallel. It's an interesting connection.
because if you look at like any artists and
Yeah.
anything that looks cool but is based off of reality, if you base anything off of something that already exists, then already you're creating something that is already real. So that already is less creative than what you would expect. However, if you created something that, well, it goes back to what you were saying about limitations, right? Like if you had no limitations, it wouldn't seem objectively creative because sure you're creating something out of nothing, and it may not have ever existed before, but also has no meaning. So is it really creative if it has no meaning? And so if we attribute meaning to anything, any sort of information, then if it has a set data, then a computer could very well recreate that if we can set some sort of label to a piece of data. If I can say that this square is red, then I could make something that's a red square that may have never existed before with the exact dimensions, but a computer could see that and probably make the exact same thing just because it's seen me do it. So maybe the computer is not creative, but it can certainly replace my ability to be creative because it has access to far more computational power than I could ever have. So in that sense, I think maybe creativity is also a computation if it's based off of things that are in reality. If you have to be touted as creative or creating valuable things that are creative, that are based off of reality, then something can build upon that. For example, an AI could build what I outlined before in my examples. It could build a sunset, then a purple sunset, then actually the sun's surface with the earth rising upon it, an earthrise.
Yeah.
It could. I just thought of that up, but like a computer could easily think of that up,
Could
given
it?
that
Could it though? Or we just have to tell
maybe
it.
it wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't right now. It wouldn't be able to think of the prompt, but it would be able to recreate it.
But the funny thing is, like the prompt, because again, I just don't know how machine learning works on that level. But like the thing is, on one hand, I want to say, oh, like if it's an algorithm, then it's not creative. On the other hand, okay, so if a computer thinks of the prompt, it could just randomly choose words. Like that's not really a complex program. Oh, it's just randomly choosing words. That's an algorithm. What did my subconscious do what did your subconscious do when you chose that? You just randomly chose words based off of, what you've been recently thinking about, aka sunsets and shit.
Yeah, is that not like okay, well that's a good distinction to make. Like is the
Okay,
algorithm
well,
in my
why are some people able to create creative work and not others? Or is it just that some people create creative work that we actually like, and some people are just, skilled, which again is more just the application of it.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think well
That's
I
a big
think like
question, though. That's a big question. Why? This is crazy.
yeah.
Why do some people create better art than others? Why?
That's true.
That's
That's
interesting.
true.
It,
Well, I
it's
mean
actually
like a
it's
lot of
actually a
people
ridiculous concept, though, isn't it? That even exists.
no, yeah, yeah,
How is that
that
even
is true.
possible?
Well, but the thing is, like, would we define as a better artwork necessarily more creative? Actually, yeah, you could. You could just say something that is more creative than something else. Like, for example, like if I could go on here, like shit, like I could just pull up on my Instagram feed and find some creative work, right? Which is something that somebody's never seen. Like, this is trippy prints. Like, you could say that this is
Show me
probably
something
this
I
is
could not fathom. Yeah, I couldn't fathom that. No, I didn't.
yeah,
That's
that's a
really
good example. That's weird, right? Like this is
that's
something, but
that's
like,
that's really a fucking weird
would you
question.
hang this up on your wall? No.
No,
Like, sure, like this may be something you can't fathom, but is this like inherently creative?
I
Maybe,
don't
but
really
like
connect.
exactly, and that's the distinction to make. If you can't connect with it, then you can't relate to it, and so as a result, it you don't deem it as valuable. So maybe in essence, it's not as creative. Whereas something that could be applicable, let me just see if I can find like a good
Yo,
one.
this could be sort of relevant, just like as a side note. Like the way
Hmm.
that kind of entertainment media works is basically like culture. Life is literally just a the way I think about it is life is just a progression of subculture of cultures, dominant cultures and subcultures, as in the subcultures are the ones that, try to take on the dominant cultures. And then entertainment media, they just find the person who most represents a group of a subculture and then they pay them to sell product, right? So what happens is that, like for example, that art only applies to a very small subculture, right? However, that art could also be placed into a bigger group of a subculture that kind of more generalizes all these little subcultures, right? And maybe then
Hmm.
we could actually,
Hmm.
it'd be more relevant, right? Because I could sell to more people through one product, right? But essentially, that's what really happens with art, I feel like, is you just have each art piece talks to a certain culture, and it's just a matter of how many people are in that culture or identify with it. And but of
And
course, the bigger the culture becomes, the less it becomes a subculture, and the more mainstream it becomes, right? Which is the more kind of the less edgy it becomes. So like it kind of loses its cool in that sense.
Mm.
And I guess, as more people find out about it, it's kind of like I feel like another part of this answer is really, really a lot in looking at creative problem solving because creative problem solving is a weird thing because I've seen solutions to business problems where I'm like, damn, that's really creative. And
Yeah,
I've also
like that.
created ones that people are like, oh, damn, that's really creative. But at the end of the day, we're just using first principles and then we have a ton of options and we just decide which one best aligns with our decision
No,
criteria. However, but I think this could be interesting to add to this because it's a much more stepwise thing. But we as humans say, oh, that's creative, even though it's very algorithmic. And and I forgot my second point, but it was kind of like the same line.
no, but like that's actually that's actually super important. And I think that actually ties back to what we were saying before, where no, I think you were right earlier saying that like creativity actually has to have bound for it to be applicable because while like creating something out of the ether may be like easy to do for a human, however like its ability to be like actually valuable for anybody is actually um a lot harder to
And
make
that's
work.
that's where the walls come in, right? It's like, oh, you have to be creative, but within these walls, then it has to apply to this human experience or whatever. The other thing I was going to say is, like, for example, when you solve a math problem, right, and they never want you to look at the answer, and the thing is, that as soon as you see even the first part of the answer, like, it's funny, right? When you're solving a math problem, there might be, let's say, there's like you can split up into 10 parts, right? The thing is, if you look at the first part, you don't lose a tenth of the education, you lose like 90% of it, right? Where like,
Mm.
because I think about this like, like if a lot of people see a certain piece of art, right, then it becomes, let's say somebody else creates it, it becomes less and less like creative, maybe. But like for example, when you are creating a solution for a math problem, right, that solution was obviously created multiple times. However, if you look at even a small part of the solution to help you solve it, it becomes much less relevant. Like nobody really cares that you solved it anymore. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, because you didn't.
So I don't
It's
know how much that applies to, like, oh, like the more we see one art, the less
I
relevant it
think it
becomes as somebody
absolutely
created it.
applies though. I think it absolutely applies because like like for one, like novelty is a big thing when it comes to like creativity, right? Like if you see something that you've already seen before, then it's not touted as creative because it's likely in the fact that they have seen it before or you have seen it before. So it doesn't seem innovative because it's probably like derivative of something else. But also on that with art, like the reason why as we were talking about before, like we could just use the same example, like being within these restrictions. If you're not purely restrictive to like a certain experience or for example really good art with emotion, then you're not going to be able to relate with a lot of people and not a lot of people are going to actually think it's a
Yeah.
good art piece because it doesn't actually give them any sort of value. Like when they look at that, it doesn't invoke any emotion because they can't relate to it. Like if you had something that was just like if you had something as the one I showed you that was like some trippy quote unquote visual, if you didn't follow under the category of people who enjoy things that are like I guess like psychedelic kind of artwork or like trippy out of this world kind of stuff, then probably nobody's gonna have any value to it. And even you said yourself like you can't fathom it, but like you also said like it doesn't really have any value to you. But if I showed you something like I don't even know like if I showed you like a classical art piece, if I showed you Starry Night, um Starry Night is like it is a great art piece, but it also is like it also has a lot of this like experience with like we a lot of people relate to it because we were shown it as like through kids and artwork, and we also know the history. We were taught the history of Van Gogh, so the story in of itself actually evokes more emotion through the art piece,
It's about the
and
culture,
so
it's not about the object.
exactly, and understanding the culture and stuff and understanding your current environment is important for you to create something that's creative and also valuable, which we could also tout as being creative. If you make an art piece that can relate to a lot of people, like a piece of music, for example, that is also in line with the current culture, then it would be a lot more revered. Like for example, um, like what was that new song? I don't know who made it, but like I wish I knew you wanted me. Like I wish I knew you wanted me. Like
Yeah.
that was
Sounds hella
like
uncreative.
that came out. Pardon?
That doesn't sound very creative.
You think it doesn't sound very creative. However, like a lot of people resonated with it and they thought it was very they thought it was very new. And I think the music space actually around this time was like was actually like essentially asking for songs like that to come out because the space was valuing songs like The Weeknd, Brent Faiyaz, Rex Orange County, etc. Like the popular artists have been those for the past few months right now.
Hmm.
And so it was like for something big to blow up like that, like it was just a matter of time for something like that to be touted as valuable. Um and also I think it was pretty creative. Like it tied to a lot of emotions that might people might have like it was laying out the foundations for somebody saying, "Oh, I had a crush on somebody and they had a crush on me, but we just didn't have the courage to talk to each other or whatever." Um But I think but that like the thing is that skews the idea of creativity for me. Like what you would think is intuitive with creativeness because Peterson also makes this distinction as well though. He says like if you want to be truly creative, you have to actually provide like I guess value and novelty. But that brings that
Yeah.
brings a an interesting paradox as to when, let's say, again, you had no information coming in or out, yet you still were able to make something that was original to your perspective. Like, let's say, like remember, fucking Tana's rule. Remember from AP, like the trapezoidal rule, but somebody made it up, so it was like Tana's rule.
No.
You don't remember that inside joke that we had? Like you don't remember like the scientific you weren't there that day. You were absent. So basically, um and I remember you came back the next day and we were all talking about it and you didn't get the joke. But basically it was like so what this person did is that for their like biology newspaper, they essentially cited the trapezoidal rule, which is like a calculus theorem
Right.
for them to derive the area under the curve using trapezoids.
Yeah.
And this woman this woman, I think her name was Tana, she actually derived herself the trapezoidal rule. And she thought it was mind-blowing, and she posted in a scientific paper. She said new method for it. She got cited a lot of times, but people started seeing it and thought this is just the trapezoidal rule.
I
Now, is
remember. I
she?
remember this day. Yeah, I remember this day.
Yeah. Is she the? But the thing is, like, is she? I mean, she could have gone about it in different ways. She could have been like, "Oh, I just didn't know about the trapezoidal rule." But
Right.
like that's interesting. Is she any less creative than
No.
the mathematician who made that
Well,
the original
in all
trapezoidal
likeliness,
rule?
she could be less absolute value because she might have seen things that she didn't know at the time were, works that were created based off of the
Yeah, but
trapezoidal
forget
rule.
all the nuance. Let's say like she knew nothing, whatever. Like, would somebody who created something that already exists,
If there was
however,
no nuance, if it was like in a vacuum, then of course that's absolutely as creative. It's just not relevant to society, but it's absolutely as creative.
but and that's an important distinction to make because if you have to understand, if in order to be truly creative, you have to understand the limitations of your creativity. What's stopping an AI to being able to produce something that's equally to human efficiency if it's just the matter of optimizing for what's in your given circumstances. Like what can an AI overcome if we are also limited to all the knowledge we already have already? If
No,
we know that
I don't
everything
think
it
there's
already
anything.
exists, if we already know everything that already exists in our domain that we're trying to innovate on, and we know the limits of our domain, and the AI also knows equally that stuff,
Yeah,
then what's stopping the AI from using all the things that happened before and all the things that's happening right now to make something new?
I'm trying to think of the most creative things I have seen, and obviously these are all going to be only the the only way that I would actually know about them is if they were popular, which is fine because it works in the context of this, and say I will only be used to create relevant things. So I'm trying to think of the most like creative things, and I can't think of anything so out of this world. Obviously, I think that AI will be able to do it all. Of course, it'll still get litigated in court just because people want to make money. But this conversation kind of makes me realize that that's always going to be a bull. Like there's
Yeah.
no way they're going to win that, bro. Like no, like it's not about to happen. Or at least they won't be in the right. So I would take the position that Like anybody saying that, AI is infringing, like that's cap. Uh,
Yeah.
at least as we get to like more and more kind of complex AI, which makes me think that the regulations might be actually about how complex the AI model is, which is kind of interesting. Um, but again, I'm trying to think of the most out of this world creative things I can think of, which are at the same time also relevant. And it's hard. I think every single thing that comes out is just an iterated version of what came before it. Literally, in the business sense, this is completely the case. Businesses are just iterating. This firm solved this problem, but they forgot about this problem. Okay, now I'm gonna hop on this problem. Okay, this firm solved this problem, but they forgot about this problem, so now I'm gonna hop on this problem. Right? Like, of course, nobody would be creating software if computers didn't exist. Nobody would be creating, like laptops if desktops didn't exist, right? Like they're just going on. It's just the innovation cycle. In terms of art, obviously I know less, but again, I really like I even see this like little puzzle of like
No, but
an
that's
astronaut.
really interesting about the business, right? Because you're talking about like it's less creative for these people to solve these problems, but like building the platforms themselves, that was truly a creative feat. Like like Steve Jobs building the iPhone, that was truly a creative feat.
Was it though, or was he just determined? I think that was more of a, like a, like 3 minute mile kind of thing. I think he was just determined more than anybody else to create an actually good phone because it's a technological innovation in a lot of ways,
He
right?
moved
He pushed
like
the engineers
what he
hard.
did though is he took what stereotypically you would think of a phone and flipped it on its head and made it into a supercomputer instead. Like was it actually
True.
yeah,
No, no,
like
no. You know what? You know what? Never mind. You're right. Because what they did is they creatively created something that delights,
mm,
right? The same
like
way
which
that
thing?
it was because I'm like thinking, oh, it's engineering because they made something that humans like. But at the same time, well, no, just like most paintings fall flat, right? Like nobody cares about them. So, but at the same time, they weren't drawing to a culture. They were drawing to usability.
Did do you think that everything was in place for Steve Jobs to make the iPhone, or he truly just innovated on his own? Like did did the advent of the computer and the internet and etc. put everything in place serendipitously for him to be able to
Of
make
course it did,
the
because he
iPhone?
himself was working on, creating and releasing computers and personal computers for like, almost 3 decades before the iPhone came out. So of course it was in place. That's just the evolution cycle.
So then like how much of it was
Which
attributed
makes me
to
think, what are we missing? What iPhone are we missing right now?
what do you mean?
What platform? Like what's the iPhone?
Oh yeah, yeah. What platform are we missing? That's the $1 million question.
That's
That
the
really
billion dollar.
is.
That's a trillion dollar
I
question,
think
really.
it is. It is. It is. I think the next platform is going to be building off of what we were talking about today, which is the issues that AI is going to bring. It's going to be. I think it's going to be purely on this market, and I think it's going to be what I want to go into for the short term is actually I think it's going to be creative amplification tools. And while people say the technology is not here, the technology is here to amplify creativity on
That's
massive
actually ironic
scales.
because I've been thinking about it like for over a year now, and like I'm close to developing this, like, which is like I'm trying to find ways where humans can rate art, and the best art gets to the top.
Hmm.
So what are your
Like,
thoughts? Like, sorry, I actually shouldn't have said that, but like what is your thoughts directly on your thing, like without what I just said?
oh, so like like I think the next big thing is going to be like I guess I guess trying to not I guess trying to make like a central hub, maybe a marketplace or like centralize information for tools for creative usage. What I'm thinking about for myself is that I've been thinking of creating sort of a like a hub for tools, but it utilizes like imitation learning for monotonous tasks because that's what we're trying to optimize, and nobody's really truly done that. So why not can we have learning algorithms that can learn by literally you teaching it, like teaching a dog a trick to do a task that you want to do, instead of you having to write any of that code, you just teach some algorithm with a very unique framework for it to mimic exactly what you did and then try to know exactly what you're trying to do. For example, um, so I'm trying to make essentially like a marketplace for all these tools that perform these actions. So people train data sets and then people or train models and then people use these models to their own advantage. For example, and I think it ties in directly to people's creativity because you are solving a problem and then you're teaching an AI how to solve a problem. And then when people find out how you solve the problem, they don't need to learn how to solve the problem themselves. They just see, oh, this person solved my problem. I don't need to even pay a product. I have a fucking automata that can do this for me and I don't have to train it myself. So it just rapidly increases that rate
Yeah.
of progressing to purely creative tasks. For example, if I'm trying to build like if I'm trying to like for example, I was writing cue cards today and yesterday, and I was like, fuck, like I'm just copy pasting bold words, which are the keywords and then their definitions. And I'm like, if I could just teach literally it was just like, why can't I just have something learn how to do this for me? And I'm like, maybe I could do like a for loop, but the thing is it would have to have a little bit more intelligence to know which thing is the definition and which thing is actually the character because they don't do it in a very deterministic way. But if I just had an unsupervised learning model learn how to do that for me by watching me how to do it, and then I train it over time, if I optimize the iteration and the ability for it to learn quickly, then it would be able to do that super fast and then copy me exactly, and then it would solve my issue. And then I could just do it maybe 4 or 5 times, or maybe 10 times, and then the next 1,000 cards I want to make on slides, it would be able to do that perfectly. It would be able to know exactly what kind of definitions I'm looking for. It would know what the keywords are, and it would paste that on the slide, paste it there,
Yeah.
and it would just mimic the action. And the reason why something like that already exists, like I don't even remember the name, but there's some things like even actually Apple's I forgot what it's called, but it's like the one that they use to make the widgets and shit. Even Apple's version of that isn't perfect because it can't do anything intelligent. Like you can make it do like repetitive tasks over and over again, but like when
Oh
it comes to
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you know shortcuts?
Yeah,
Shortcuts has
shortcuts.
actions that you can do. But the thing is about shortcuts is that like or and even things similar to that is that these actions
It's
are
for looping.
just too basic. They can't learn.
Deterministic.
Like exactly. Like it has to be perfect. It has to be absolutely perfect. Whereas the layouts of these slides are never perfect. Like
So
in a perfect
you want
world,
to
yeah,
increase like the threshold of redundancy at every step, so to
exactly.
say.
And you wanna be able to have it learn and also be able to do it like intuitively. Like it could be able to mimic your actions perfectly as though it is intuitive for itself to learn these things. And
Mm.
this would accelerate our progression for people to move away from monotonous tasks. So like for example, if let's say I was gonna do like if I needed to make like a graph, like sure there's a lot of graphing technologies and what have you online. However, you still have to do it yourself. But for me, writing lab reports, having to interpret all these data, like it still has to do it in a very clean way through spreadsheets. I have to copy paste the data, whatever, but it's still repetitive in nature. But it's not repetitive enough so that a for loop can just do it. No, it would have to be me. Like I can't automate this in a very easy way. So I would have to teach like somebody else to do it. And that's what I did. I would outsource it. I'd be like, okay, you could do this. But instead of outsourcing it to somebody, which would cost your hourly wage, um, then you could just have an automata learn it and then replace it. So my
Yeah.
idea for this business was to make a marketplace for a bunch of these models. The product itself was was the imitation neural network that can copy whatever you do based on just learning like on like live screen time of you doing it, and then it iterates through that and it's like, okay, this is what it's trying to do. It tries to predict what it's trying to do, and then you can personally correct it, whatever, and then you can upload it to the marketplace, and then you could say solution for X, this
Yeah,
monotonous
yeah.
task, and then they
Um,
copy it and iterate through it.
the back
So
end is crazy because what if you now compare somebody's DNA, somebody's like sorry DNA scan or whatever that's called, um, like
what do
DNA
you mean, like,
sequence. Somebody's because like on a personal level, right? Like people do things differently, right? Like there's a little difference in how you make cue cards than the next person, right? Now, what if you compare how you make cue cards to your DNA sequence, right?
Exactly.
Now we're AGIing this shit on like a very like it's almost like humans, right? Like and like really we can understand more like why based on your DNA do you
Mm.
have this
Oh,
small
that's
tiny difference, you know?
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
I was thinking though, like, what would be the superpower of this is that, like, you would compare it with other people's methods, and then over time, like, because it's supposed to be a marketplace, right? So, like, the most optimized model will be pushed to the top. So people will see this, and then they'll try to do it
Right.
themselves, and then they'll post this model, and then they maybe could train each other's models, or yeah, like
That's
that would be too.
interesting.
Like,
The most optimized thing is
combine
interesting,
both.
right? Like the most optimized human will be, you know, like will profit.
Exactly. In this
It's like
space, it creates.
who copies
Um,
cue cards the best?
Exactly. And it'll create a platform for people who are like genuinely creative because then it shows their problem solving skills.
Ah, okay. That's interesting because, you
So let's
know,
say you're a creator on this platform, in theory, like you could show them exactly how good you are at problem solving in these circumstances. So I mean, that was my idea. I was and honestly, I think I was like I've been doing research for it. I'm already gonna start building it. I actually
yeah,
already started because I thought that was pretty dope. Because the
so dope.
technology is
So
here,
dope.
and that's the issue. The
Right, it is.
technology is already here. OpenAI has open source code for this right now, and I literally just downloaded it so I could iterate it on my own. Um, and
Yo,
it's literally like
it's
people think like,
it's
oh,
so
like
sick.
it is sick, and
It's
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 there.
like
Like people,
Tesla picking up driving data to train their like as a society we should be doing this because if it's in our interest to reach more kind of, you know, more automation, it's literally like Tesla picking up driving data, right, to train their model as people drive Teslas, except we should be doing this on a societal level. And that's what you're creating.
exactly, and
Your
you're exactly
mass
right. It's
data
literally like,
collection. Like,
and over time, scalability wise, like I could incorporate meta learning tactics so I could further expand this idea. Like if I have all these little
yo,
bots that learn how to
if you
learn,
cross
then
reference it,
I could take that and be like,
dude,
okay, these guys all learn this kind of way. So how can I make my
I'm
big
saying
boy learn all of these things? And I could further perfect my algorithm.
so many like yo on the back on the front, right? Because even like yo like teaching kids like because you know we have our like five different learning strategies, right? Well, it's like oh like now we know all these like little profiles, like because as you said, it's almost like the same way because it's like a pyramid, you know, the same way like subgenres build into bigger and bigger cultures, right? Like you can break down a human profile into you know their most individual level, and then you can just like more as there are more and more users, you can pack each profile into more and more commonalities. Of course, every across every single characteristic trait. So the dude, the potential of this from like a data standpoint,
It could be great.
and you're
It
just
could be so
automating the shit
insane.
out of humanity. But it's gotta be like it's gotta be relevant. It can't be like one of these little you know like one of these little websites. You know like
No,
it's
no,
gotta work.
absolutely.
It's gotta work incredibly. And I feel
That's
like the vibe I get, like the feeling, you know, because you're saying the technology's here. My feeling is like it's not 2017 anymore. Like 2022, like you see OpenAI, like that's robust. You know, it's got to be robust.
yes.
It's got to be professional.
But the thing is, like, OpenAI has made this, and they made it open source. So I don't even need to like be a master at fucking machine learning. I just need to use what they've built and then build off of that because they made it open source for people to do research on it and to develop on that shit, etc. Um, so, and all these models, you know, there's so many open source models that you can build off of, you can share, and you can create your own and you can learn so easily off of that. And I'm just thinking like there has to be an easier way to, you know, do all of these things. And I think it's just a one all like I think it's a like a one size fits all sort of solution because you could teach it to do like in theory, these imitation models, you could teach it to do pretty much anything, to just copy you. You could have it like learn how to play Minecraft as OpenAI did. You can have it play AlphaGo. I mean, sorry, yeah, you can have it play Go like AlphaGo. You can have it play chess like chess. These imitation models built off of their framework, off of existing human statistics, and existing um, data sets that were made by humans, and then they just became their own thing. So if we can increase the number of labeled data sets, which has been the issue, then we can not only, for one, on a business standpoint, we could outsource that data and sell it and make a profit, but we could also just train our models better because we have a form of actually labeling these data sets and incentivizing people to label these data sets because we can
Yeah.
remove people finding these things. Like I could,
Taking individual models though and turning and data and turning it into like something that's relevant like across a broader kind of utility is going to be really tough.
I think, yeah, I think actually though, like it'll all fall into place if I perfect the model itself. Because like OpenAI even didn't perfect their thing, which was very concerning for me. Like it took them maybe like 20,000 hours of video, which is a lot of video for them to actually get to that point. So I mean, like obviously, there's it's gonna have a point of innovation, and I think I absolutely will pursue this with like scientists, machine learning scientists, and researchers because even the top boys still haven't gotten to this point. So I'll definitely have to play around with
Yeah.
it. However, in theory, if the model is strong enough, this could just be a propellant not only for the data itself or the algorithm to get even better at learning other things, but also for everybody else because we have now labeled data sets for video training. So it will just further amplify anybody who's trying to use labeled video data sets for their AIs and their learning algorithms. So I think that is actually the true value in the product here for a B2B standpoint because it would be essentially just selling labeled data sets.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue because they had to like OpenAI had to clean through like thousands and thousands of hours of data set of video and it was sorry, my brother's calling me. But in essence, like they had to clean through so much shit and like it would just have been so much better if they had things that actually fit their category. And if we already have that for them, then we solve their issue and we solve everybody else's issue. And then we can open the domain for people with object detection, um, with imitation learning, with spiking neural networks, etc. We could truly maximize it with just this one product. And that's my I guess my idea of it. Obviously, like it's been maybe a few days since I've thought about this, so it's not I could be absolutely wrong, but I don't see any harm in trying this out because
Gotta
again,
find
it's
out. Gotta find out, bro.
exactly you gotta find out, right? Like I'm gonna go talk to my actually I'm gonna talk to my professor exactly about this, see how he thinks about it. But also like I've connected with research professors at the University of Alberta and the University of Amsterdam. Um, or sorry, not Amsterdam, but yeah, but basically, um, I want to test this out because at the end of the day, it's really all about, creating better product and better value for the world and having that innovation grow exponentially to the point where we aren't doing any more monotonous tasks. It's actually the biggest waste of our time, and we can't be doing that anymore. So instead of teaching humans how to do robotic things, we should teach robots how to do robotic things and let humans do all the thinking.
And let humans do
So
human things. That's your line.
exactly.
Instead of
That's
teaching
it.
humans how to do robotic things, we should teach robots to do robotic things and teach humans to do human things.
Exactly, bro. That's
Yeah.
it. That's
Man,
what you need.
2023 looking fire, bro.
It's just looking exciting, bro.
Yo,
Like
why didn't we do anything for Heidi's birthday?
I don't know. When was his
But
birthday?
apparently it was today.
Shit, it is today. I don't know, bro. We watched the World Cup.
Oh, he was there? I thought.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, fine, fine. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, bruv.
Hopefully there'll be a link up soon though.
Yeah, I hope so. But yo, I could cut right now. However,
Yeah.
do you have more to say, bro? Like I don't mind staying.
No,
Like
bro. I'm gonna
actually.
go. I'm gonna go chill with my family and eat some
All
food.
right,
But
blessed.
hey, man, blessed talking to you. I'll see you
Yo,
soon.
yeah, blessed. All right, bro. I can't wait to hear more about your ideas, about your knowledge. Been a blessed talk, Motive Pod. First actual recording with audio.
Yeah,
Um,
let's go.
yo, when are you gonna start uploading it?
Like, I mean, after this, I'll upload the second one after this, and then I'll upload this one like in a few days.
Okay, yeah, yeah, bless. Let's edit
And
it.
then,
Let's go.
okay,
Do we
okay.
have any viewers on Twitch? Did Freddie view it?
Shit. Let's see.
See the chat.
248. Gotta be careful here.
Mm,
Val, give me 1 sec. I'll be ready in a second.
mm,
Val, give me Yo, I'm getting ready. Just give me a second. Is
mm,
Jason coming upstairs
right
right
now.
now? I'm getting ready. Just give me a second. Is
Mm,
Jason coming upstairs? Yo, I
right
promise
now.
you I'll be ready in a sec.
All right. We have one viewer who was just me on it, but now there's probably no viewers. So yeah.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. Anyways, it was a good time. Good talking.
Yep.
Yo, yeah, no, it was just a vibe. It was just a vibe. I was just thinking yo, I thought maybe for like 20 minutes about like a subject to talk about, and I'm glad we landed on creativity. Um,
Hey man, important for the entertainment business. I don't say that much.
yeah,
How
exactly.
does Gen Z think, bro? That could be important for making
Yeah, that's up
for
to the
selling them a lot
audience.
of fucking posters and shit. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Might just be relevant to me.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Anyways, bro, I gotta go, but yo, it's a blessed talking with you, and I'll see you later, bro. I love you, man.
See you, man. Love you.
All right, love you, bro.